I remember the day Dad had his stroke like it was yesterday, even though years have blurred since then. It was early spring, those days when the shift from winter to warm teased you with sunny afternoons and cold mornings. I was 19, a freshman at the community college, juggling two part-time jobs, waiting tables at night, stocking shelves at a bookstore on weekends. I'd called home after my last shift, breathless with exhaustion, ready to collapse into bed, when I heard Mom's voice crack in a way that still gives me chills. "Lily, your father, he's in the hospital. You need to come home." The world tipped. I dropped into a chair, phone pressed to my ear, heart thundering so hard I thought it would crack ribs. "What happened?" Mom's tears fell through the line. "A stroke. The ambulance. They say he's stable, but please come." I booked the next bus, feet pounding, mind racing through a million what-ifs. When I arrived at St. Jude's Regional, I'd never felt so hollow. The pale linoleum corridors stretched on forever. My older brothers, Jack and Daniel, were there, pinched faces, arms folded. They barely glanced at me. "Where have you been?" Jack asked, like I'd missed a family game. Daniel muttered something about priorities. Dad lay in bed, tubes everywhere, oxygen, IV lines, monitors humming. His eyes fluttered open when I stepped in. He tried to smile. "Hey, Pumpkin," he rasped. He called me Pumpkin since I was 4. "You made it." I tried to speak, but my throat wrenched. Instead, I clutched his hand. It was cool, limp with weakness. Mom bustled in, her face red. "Lily, honey, over here." She guided me to Dad's bedside. She slipped an arm around me but didn't look at my brothers. They hovered like storm clouds. No one offered me a chair. They talked quietly. Insurance, rehab, life changes, never once asking how I was. Later in the waiting room, I asked Mom, "What can I do?" My voice shook. I wasn't the baby of the family anymore, but I feared they'd treat me like one. She patted my hand. "You rest, sweetheart, we'll handle." She gestured at the boys. "We'll handle everything." I realized then I was being sidelined. The daughter who'd gone off to college, who'd chosen work and independence over staying home. The daughter whose claim on Dad's care would be secondary. Life after the stroke was surreal. Dad came home in a wheelchair, speech slurred, right side weak. Rehab started immediately. Daily physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. Jack and Daniel took turns driving him, handling insurance, repairing the ramp to the front porch. Mom's job at the school district suddenly shifted to part-time, spent in therapists' waiting rooms and grocery runs. I asked if I could help. "Sure," Mom said. "You can clip coupons to save us some money." I wrapped Dad's sandwiches in wax paper, organized his pill box, but they never asked me to coordinate his appointments or speak to doctors. That fell to my brothers, structured button-up. They thrived on logistics. They'd call his therapists, adjust his schedule. I was left to empty ice trays and fold Dad's loose hospital gowns. I remember the first check from Dad's disability insurance, $500. Mom sat in the kitchen and cried. "We'll need this for copays, special equipment." Jack nodded gravely. Daniel said something about mounting costs. When the bills arrived, hospital, therapy, home nurse, Mom told me the funds were all for Dad's care. We scrimped on groceries, canceled cable, wore winter coats months after the season ended. I tightened every belt loop. Every now and then, Dad would try to speak. One night, he pointed at me, his eyes wide. I knelt beside him. "What is it, Dad?" He pressed my hand, struggled for words. Mom frowned, anxious. I whispered, "It's okay, take your time." He forced out syllables, peasant, or needy. He was trying to say priority. Mom clutched his other hand. I realized he wanted to tell her I was important too. But she glanced away, bristled, and we moved on. 2 years passed in a haze of therapy and borrowed hospital chairs. My brothers moved into career-boosting jobs. Jack in real estate, Daniel in finance. They got promotions, raises, company cars. I graduated debt-laden but proud, with a degree in psychology, dreaming of becoming a counselor. I got a job as a resident advisor at a women's shelter, working third shift, saving up for a master's. When Dad's will needed updating, my brothers whisked me out of the process. "It's just legal details," Daniel said. "Not your thing." They arranged a meeting at the lawyer's office. I sat in the corridor, flipping through outdated magazines. Mom and my brothers emerged, handed me an envelope. "Here," Mom said. "Just sign here, here, and here." She didn't explain what I was signing. My heart pounded. I want to read it. Mom frowned. There's no time right now. Sign. I knew my rights, but I also knew standing up would mean arguments. I signed. Inside was Dad's revised will. Everything, house, cars, savings, even his vintage record collection, left equally to Jack and Daniel. Mom had been named executor. My name wasn't on it. I swallowed bile. I looked at Mom, tears glistened in her eyes. But they weren't for me. Months later, Dad's final days came. He slipped into dementia, forgot my name, forgot my face. One afternoon, he smiled at me and whispered, "Little pumpkin." Then he asked for Jack. My heart sank. I left the room, pretending to tie my shoes. At the funeral, Mom wore black, sons flanking her. I wore navy. The pastor delivered comforting words. When it came to the reading of the will, I slipped out, didn't want to hear the details. Later, at the reception, I noticed my brothers counting envelopes. Dad's life insurance payout, $200,000, accounted for in envelopes on his dresser at home. I walked past and heard them discuss the split, $100,000 each, plus the house sale. I realized the house would sell, and the proceeds go to them. I got nothing. I felt nothing. A numbness that radiated out from my chest. Mom handed me a small check, envelope marked for Lily. I opened it in my purse. $500. A little something, she said. We know it's been hard. I smiled, closed the envelope. Thank you. I moved out that week into a cramped studio apartment. Unpacking my meager boxes, I felt I had nothing. No inheritance, no support, no place in my own family. Friends rallied around me, co-workers, college classmates. They threw a small housewarming party. I laughed through the evening, but tears leaked when I was alone. I threw myself into work, counseling domestic violence survivors. I found purpose there, in listening, in helping others claim their worth. I took extra shifts, saved every dollar, and applied to graduate programs. One day, 3 years after Dad passed, I opened mail, a letter from the probate court, re-estate of Patricia Hendricks. Mom's name was executor. I was listed as interested party. I read on Mom had filed to sell the house. Proceeds to be dispersed equally among heirs. Jack, Daniel, and me. The word equally lifted my chest like fresh air. I stared at the envelope. My sister's always been messy, so I almost didn't notice a sticky note from Mom. Made a mistake. Love you. I sat down, stunned. Mom had changed the will. I called her. Mom, is this real? Her voice trembled. Yes, honey. I was so blinded trying to protect the boys. I lost sight of you. After you moved out, I realized I'd hurt you. So I asked Dad's lawyer to amend the will. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but tears streamed down my face. Mom, I thank you. I don't know what to say. She sniffed. I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes. I forgive you. Over the next weeks, the house sold for $350,000. After fees and taxes, the proceeds were split 3 ways. My share, I'd get around $115,000. I wept when I saw the deposit, but the real gift was something money couldn't buy. Inclusion, recognition, a restored place in my family. I invited Mom for tea. I want to talk, she said, settling at my kitchen table. I poured tea, set sugar cubes for her. Thank you for the will, I said quietly. But what mattered more was you admitting you were wrong. She reached across and squeezed my hand. I love you, Lily. Always have. I let fear drive my choices. No more. I smiled through tears. No more. That night, I lay in bed, thinking back on the journey. Dad's stroke, the sidelining, the cutout will, the raw ache of exclusion. Then Mom's reversal, the deposit, the tears, the forgiveness. I realized family bonds aren't unbreakable. They can be stretched thin, even snap, but they can also be mended. As sleep claimed me, I whispered into the darkness. I'm here, Mom. We're together. I belong. And in that moment, I believed it. And I believed in the new story we would write, side by side, heart to heart. I awoke before dawn, sunlight just silvering the horizon. My apartment was quiet. Mom gone back to her own life, leaving me with the promise of repair and a restored future. I stretched, savoring the soft sheets, and the knowledge that I no longer needed to pinch pennies for rent. Instead, I had options: to pay off my student loans, invest in my counseling practice, perhaps even buy a little house of my own one day. I dressed quickly and headed to my first morning shift at the shelter. As I walked, I thought today is different. Today I have freedom to choose how I spend every dollar I earn and every hour I live. That afternoon, I met Mom at the cafe where we once had our tense will signing conversation. She arrived with the same pink roses, now fading at the petals' edges. "Hi," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "You look happy." I smiled. "I feel it. Thank you for everything." She reached across and squeezed my hand. "I owe you an apology again. For so long, I forgot how to listen to you. I was stuck in my own worry." I sipped my tea. "I know, and I forgive you." We talked softly, as two women who had learned to rebuild trust. I told her about my plans to clear my student debt entirely, using half my inheritance to pay off loans, and the other half to seed my dream, opening a small community counseling center, free or sliding scale services for victims of domestic violence. "It's time I invested in my calling," I explained. "I want the security the inheritance gives me, and the chance to give back." Mom's eyes brimmed. "Your father would be proud. He always admired your compassion." We lingered long after the cups cooled, forging new understanding. I realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but choosing to move forward together. The next week, I handed over the first chunk of cash to my loan servicer. The balance plummeted from $28,000 to zero, and I closed that chapter with relief so profound I almost cried at the bank teller's congratulations. My credit score jumped 30 points overnight, proof that releasing debt unchains more than money. That afternoon, I toured a small storefront downtown. It was a bare box of concrete floors and fluorescent lights, an old nail salon, abandoned for years. But I saw potential: counseling rooms, community meeting space, warm corners for art therapy. I tapped numbers into my phone, running financial projections. The price was within reach. By Friday, I'd signed a lease, with 6 months' rent paid up front. My heart raced as I wrote Empower Center on the whiteboard in black marker, imagining the helpline I'd install, the chairs I'd arrange, the warmth I'd bring into that cold shell of an old storefront. That evening, I called Mom. "Guess what? I found a location." She cheered. "This is wonderful. I can't wait to see it." I laughed. The sound light. "Soon, we'll have a grand opening, family only at first." Over the next month, I transformed the tiny space. Most evenings, I painted walls in soothing teal and slate gray. I scavenged thrift stores for cozy sofas, coffee tables, throw pillows. I hired local contractor friends to build intake desks and private cubicles. I installed a small kitchenette for support group potlucks. By the time the big family-only open house arrived, the old salon had become something hopeful, a sanctuary for healing. Mom cut the ribbon, oversized scissors gleaming under the lights. Jack and Daniel milled around awkwardly, offering polite praise. Mom introduced them to the first volunteer counselor, Sarah, and fed them brownies. Daniel leaned in. "This is impressive." Jack nodded. "I'm proud of you, sis." Halfway through the tour, Emily slipped in, my stepsister, whose presence had faded after her car fiasco but now returned. She hugged me. "I've missed this," she whispered. I beamed. "You're here," she dabbed at her eyes. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." In the reception area, I placed a small plaque, in loving memory of Jonathan and Margaret, whose love inspired this space. Dad's name shimmering in brass, Mom's too, both absent and present at once. That night, after everyone left, I sat at my intake desk, looking around. Clients would arrive next week. Women who'd been beaten, children who'd heard too much. I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders, but also a thrill. I was finally living the life I'd trained for. My phone buzzed. It was the nonprofit director, who'd offered seed funding for our first support group. "Can we meet Monday at lunch?" the text read. I typed back, "Absolutely. Thank you for believing in me." The following afternoon, I locked up and drove home. On the radio, a song played one dad used to sing around the house. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. In the rearview mirror, I saw my new car, still mine, for good. The road stretched ahead, its possibilities vast as the sky. When I got home, Mom was on the porch. She waved, a plate of Dad's favorite cookies in hand. "Thought you might need a snack." I hugged her. Perfect timing. We sat on the steps, munching chocolate chip cookies. The world felt right. I was debt-free, building my dream, embraced by family. And despite all the pain of the past, the stroke, the exclusion, the initial will, the reckoning, I'd arrived at a place more real, more meaningful than anything I'd ever hoped for. Mom rested her head on my shoulder.
I'm so proud of you. I kissed her hair.
Thank you for finding your way back, she sighed. We all took time to learn, but we're together now. I looked out at the quiet street, the sun dipping behind rooftops. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Flawed, messy, and filled with love. And for the first time, I knew that my worth had never been in an inheritance or a will, but in every step I took to heal, to grow, and to claim my own story. And tomorrow my doors would open to the first clients at Empower Center. Because sometimes real inheritance isn't money, it's the power to build something that changes lives. And in that realization, I felt profoundly rich.